What is good, people? Welcome back to another episode of That Transfer Show. Rod is away this weekend, so Danny has filled in. Thank you very much for joining us, Danny.
Good to be back.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time coming, but hopefully we'll have you on a bit more regularly now with the upcoming season. But today we've got some juicy transfers to discuss, so let's just get straight into it. So we're going to start off with Chelsea. Obviously, defensively, they were looking a bit weak before this week. Rudiger and Christensen left to go to Real Madrid and Barcelona. But now they have brought in probably one of the world's best centre-backs in many people's opinions in Koulibaly from Napoli. It wasn't even that much of a massive deal in terms of the price paid and the way it went down. It seemed to go down extremely smoothly. I guess, first of all, I just wanted to ask your opinion on Koulibaly to, Chelsea, and, what do you think this means for Chelsea going forward?
I think it's a very good signing for Chelsea. I just think you compare it to their previous sort of central defensive signings, they always know how to just sign a solid centre-back. And it reminds me a lot of the Thiago Silva signing. And obviously, I thought Koulibaly was a lot older than he actually is. He's only, 31?
31, yeah.
Yeah, 31 years old. It's almost a surprise there weren't more people after him.
Yeah, well, he's been linked with a move away for years now, and I was really surprised that it actually happened this time, because I thought he's going to see out the rest of his days at Napoli, because it's been like every summer he's linked with someone. I guess what I would ask is, do you think the age concerns are a bit less of a worry, since we've seen Thiago Silva come in, who was a really highly touted centre-back before joining Chelsea, but he was at an extremely sort of age where you would consider it a bit of a risk. But with Koulibaly, do you think, 31 is still good enough? I think they can probably still get, 3 to 4 years out of him, probably.
Yeah, and I think you got to recognise that he's on that sort of upper echelon of centre-backs where, a lot of centre-backs in the top level, they rely on their pace, but people like Thiago Silva, they know how to read the game. They don't need their pace in their old age. And that's what Thiago Silva showed, is how old he is. He can still keep up just by reading the game.
Yeah.
And because he's just top class, and Koulibaly, for me, is in that bracket. So again, I have no doubts that he can adjust and get a good 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, man, I think it's a decent signing. Considering the sort of attributes he's coming into the Premier League with. I mean, he's a good reader of the game, but he's a very physical centre-back as well. I think that bodes well for Chelsea. But linked with another couple of centre-backs, Danny, 2 left-footed centre-backs. Obviously, they are a bit weak at the back now, even with the Koulibaly signing, so they still need some more numbers, especially of them playing that free back. But linked with Kimpembe and Nathan Ake. I guess we could start off with Nathan Ake, because he was previously at Chelsea before moving to Bournemouth, and now he's at City. The fee is looking around £40 million, which seems like a lot of money to re-sign Nathan Ake for.
Yeah, to me, this is just, they're buying him to how everyone sort of buys him. That's how City bought him, is to sit on the bench, really, as that sort of backup player. And you could say it's a waste of money. It doesn't make sense because they had him a few years ago, but Chelsea are just that, especially with the new owners, they can just afford to do that, just to buy a player ready for the bench. And I think he's a solid player, but I'm not sure if he is going to go or not. I heard that City changed their mind on it, but for me, Ake, who's the other one you would say?
Kimpembe.
Kimpembe. Okay,
I have problems with both of them, to be honest. I think actually Ake, he was talking about him being a bench player. I think he's probably a bit more than that. I could see him going to a top 8 side and fitting into a side pretty well. I do feel a bit bad for him if it were to be the case that he was going to just sit on the bench. Kimpembe, though, I do have my worries about. I think in terms of comparing him to Rudiger, he is definitely a threat from set pieces. But I just think he's a bit clumsy defensively. I think PSG have, suffered in defence because of him at times. And I think Marquinhos has really carried a heavy load. I think he's a bit clumsy, Danny. I'm not too sure he would be the right man for Chelsea. But if all three pieces were to happen, I mean, would it fit? I'm not too sure.
I think it's a weird mixture of players, and Kimpembe just sounds like they're going after someone who's already a big name, in my opinion. But I don't know. It would fit because it's Chelsea. They seem to just buy these players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It seems like their transfer strategy, especially this summer, has been a bit random.
Yeah.
But I think new owners is how it's going. They are going after those sort of big names. You would think maybe they start, especially with their new owners. I'm pretty sure they don't have as much money to spend as Abramovich, but they, still have a lot of money. You might go for some more younger players, like some more long-term prospects, especially.
I don't think that's the Chelsea way, though. Chelsea, I think, are looking to stay the club that they are and stay relevant. And I think for them to do that, they do have to bring in players who are ready for now. And I guess you could talk about that with the next signing, which is a done deal, Danny. Raheem Sterling has joined Chelsea. For me, I think it's a strange one. I think they do have an abundance of wingers at times. You look at the likes of, Kai Havertz playing in that sort of role and Mason Mount. For me, though, I think they're spending money in the wrong sort of place. I definitely think centre half should be, one of the main priorities. But for me, a number 9 should be in place. I don't know if this Sterling deal is going to work out. I think, everyone says in front of goal he's not that great. And I agree with that. But I'm not too sure he's going to have the impact at Chelsea that he did at City. I think his impact at City was good because of the goals he got. Obviously, it took him a hell of a lot, but I thought he was an important player in their side, especially in the past, 3-4 years ago. I thought he's an important player for them. I'm not too sure he's going to be able to play that role for a Chelsea. I'm kind of worried for Chelsea this season, and if I was to make a bet right now, I have a feeling Tuchel's going to be the first manager to go.
First manager to go.
Yeah.
You know what? With these signings, and Kimpembe's another one, they just seem like they're making big name signings and there's not a lot of strategy. And as you were saying with City, Sterling was a sort of perfect match for the system they played with the overlapping sort of wingers and fullbacks. It's a very sort of wide system where there's lots of overloads on each side. With Chelsea, they don't, that sort of 5 at the back position system, their wingers don't really get those numbers. I mean, last season, I don't think any of their wingers got double figures in terms of Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, and Ziyech. They haven't been doing the numbers at all. And what?
Ziyech,
yeah.
I agree, but I think that's a lot because of the squad that they have, and a lot of the numbers are shared out. And I think they started off so strong last year, and they just kind of fell to pieces. I think the system definitely.
Sterling's not suited to that, is he? As you were saying,
I'm not sure. I could see ways where he could be because he's quite direct, but other ways I think he could probably be mismanaged by Tuchel, who I think has mismanaged a lot of players. I think Lukaku was actually the right man for Chelsea. I think Tuchel's a lot to blame for a lot of this stuff. Yes, he won on the Champions League, but so did Di Matteo. I'm not too sure he's the right guy, and I think Chelsea fans will probably want him out soon. I think Sterling could work in the Chelsea team for sure, but I'm just not sure under this manager. I guess we should move on, Danny, to something a bit, closer to our hearts. Let's talk about United. And let's start off with Paul Pogba. It's a done deal now. He's a Juventus player, joined on a free after his contract ran out at United. Overall, what's your position on this? Because I've actually got really mixed feelings. I remember the day we signed him and it was Pog back and we was up like quite late. I think it was just gone. Was it around midnight they announced it? And we were so hyped. We was like, this guy, he's going to come into our midfield. He's going to be there for like next 10 years and he's going to really tear it up. And never really seemed to happen. I think on his day, he was a brilliant player, but overall, really disappointing.
Yes. That's how I would sum up the whole, what has it been, 6 years? And he was that answer we were looking for back in 2017. It was that sort of time where Carrick had retired or was on the verge of retiring and our midfield was looking very weak. And we thought he was going to sort of plug that hole, but it's just 6 years of failure, in my opinion. Like, I always defended Pogba. I've always been a big fan of him. I always thought we were better with Pogba in the team. And it's frustrated me how manager after manager has just misused him and not really used him in his favoured position, which is, I think, it's that left side in the free midfield.
Yeah.
Like Solskjaer, Mourinho, Ten Hag as well. Looks like it's going to be 4-3-2. What? No,
4-2-3-1. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not. He's not really that suited to that pivot, is he? And
no, I think the defensive duties were too much for him. I think it's actually a real shame because I think, like you said, if he was in a different team, I think even in a City side, I think he would have tore it up. I think, you look at the sort of team he played for before in Juve, they had the likes of Arturo Vidal in there, Marquisio breaking up the play, and they had, Andrea Pirlo sitting back and just orchestrating it. And Paul Pogba had that license to roam, and it was a shame he never really got. I think it's a shame we never really built a team around him, because I think if we did, we probably would have seen more Paul Pogba and a better Paul Pogba in the Premier League. I think after this, though, he's going to go down as one of the biggest Premier League flops, just because of the way we let him go on a free. Signed him for, what was it, 89 million, something like that. They were saying 100 million.
Yeah.
And then we've let him go on a free again after paying him outrageous wages for the last 5-6 years. I think ultimately, though, I'm actually excited for him in a way. I think him leaving is the best for his career. I think United really need to move on, and I'm excited to see what we can do with not having to maybe force Pogba into his side. And I think back in Juve, it really suits him, the league. I think it's a slower pace league from what I've seen watching it last year, and I think he's going to have a really big season for Juve. I don't think Juve are going to be that great again this season, even despite all the signings they're making, like Di Maria. I do think Allegri's was a bit of a terrorist manager, but it is what it is. But I guess overall, what do you think is going to happen now for Pogba? Do you think it's good for United and good for Pogba?
Yeah, I think it was the best solution for both parties this summer, and Pogba will go on to, as you said, the Serie A. There's just not that much pressure. It's not as a physically intense league. And it was the perfect destination for him, really. Like all the sort of big teams he could have gone to. I think going back to Juve, he'll be perfectly suited. And now United have like a bit more. I don't know. It's like
less pressure.
Yeah, and like Pogba has been. I've always defended him, as I said, and I liked him, but he was kind of problematic in the dressing room. There was always every year stories about him. Is he going to sign a contract?
Yeah.
Is he like part of that group of United players that we've had over the past few years? I think Gary Neville described them as a disease, Then it's just, that might be a bit hyperbolic, but that sort of group of players that they're not really adding to it, and they're really just creating more problems than they're worth. And he's a solid player, and if you look at his numbers, like maybe he wasn't a flop. Like he did get quite a lot of assists. I feel like people just had we had higher expectations that came with the price tag, and
I was expecting a few more long shot goals, to be honest, after the compilations of him at Juve back in the day.
Yeah, like for me, like it's just, I'm just glad it's over, man. I'm
glad it's over. It's like a relief. I guess we should move on from Pogba. I think good both ways, and despite I think United taking a massive L in the end, not getting any money for him, I think it is what it is, and at least we can move on now. I want to talk about one more outgoing before we start talking about incomings. I want to talk about Andreas Pereira moving to Fulham, Danny. I'm really excited to see what he can do, to be honest. I think looking back, to when we was a little bit younger and he was in the youth team, he was a prospect that people were very excited about. He got the start, he got into the United side, making a lot of appearances off the bench mainly, but then started to start in the United side. I don't ever think we saw the best of him in the Premier League. I remember he always used to tear it up in pre-season. But now I'm excited because I think he's going to have a big season for Fulham. I think he's going to be one of the main guys. I think him and Harry Wilson are going to probably bond together quite well in that Fulham side. And I think they might even play him as more of an advanced midfielder, where when we saw him at United, he was kind of more of a double pivot or a six, deep line playmaker. I think with the license to go forward, I think you can expect something special if you're a Fulham fan.
Yeah, it's a good move for him. I think it's a good move for all parties. I think what really hurt is sort of reputation. Like, everyone was behind him. Every United fan was behind him after season after season, after preseason. He delivered. He was the preseason Pirlo.
Yeah.
And when he finally got that big break, I think it was the season when we came second actually under Solskjaer. But he did play in that double pivot, and he wasn't very good at all. I just think it was his wrong position, as you said. Now he's going to have the chance to play a bit further forward, maybe in the 10 position.
Yeah, and I even think in the midfield 3 with Fulham, because I think he could probably play, like you said, we were talking about Pogba playing that left side centre mid. I think he would be a good player in that sort of role if there was to look at maybe playing a 4-3-3. Yeah. Fulham have obviously brought in João Palhinha, who was really a bit of a weird one for me because I thought he'd go to a much bigger side, but that's a great sign-in at CDM, and I think with him having a license, I think it's a great move for Fulham.
Yeah, but I don't know, it's a very Fulham signing at the same time, like, a bit of a risky signing, in my opinion.
I think they've really invested well so far this summer. Fucking hell, I was trying to think what month is.
The same again 2 years ago when they came up with Scott Parker.
Yeah, but I think these signings are a bit different. I think the João Palhinha one, like I was talking about, was, bigger than, the sort of names Fulham were bringing in before. And it's not just that he's bigger name, sorry. I think he's more of like a talented player than they've brought in before. And I think Pereira, despite being, kind of floppy at United, he's coming off a brilliant season in Brazil. And I'm excited to see what he can do, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's good for United as well. I will sort of pat United on the back for the way they're getting rid of a few of these players that have needed to go for a good long time now. Pogba, Pereira. I want the next one to go now. But it's good business. We're getting rid of some good players, and hopefully we can bring in some more, which we will just talk about now.
Yeah, let's go, man. So let's talk about the first signed deal, I guess, Christian Eriksen. I know your dad's a big Spurs fan, and you've gone to watch Tottenham a shit ton of times, and you've been able to see Christian Eriksen live in the flesh on very many occasions. Yeah. What's your opinion on this signing? Because obviously he came into Brentford last year, in the January transfer window on a 6-month deal with an option to extend. It was kind of a free hit for Brentford. I'm surprised they didn't lock him down to a longer term contract at the time, maybe 1 or 2 years, just because of the way, if it did work out, you could probably get a decent fee for Eriksen. But they didn't. And despite the tragic incident at the Euros, he came back into the Premier League and he looked really good. I thought he did a great job for Brentford. He was a really good creative outlet for them. Definitely something they were missing before he came in. And, kind of proved the doubters wrong. And I think I'm a bit surprised he's ended up going to United, because I'm not sure how big of a role he's going to play and what sort of position he takes up. How does it change the team? Because I do think Bruno's probably still going to be the main guy. But what's your thoughts on this transfer? Because I like him as a person and as a player, so I'm happy to see him join United.
Yeah, for me, it's a great signing. He was always one of Spurs' their best players over the years, over that, this period where Spurs have really sort of grown into being one of those big six teams. I actually wrote him off completely after the his cardiac arrest at the Euros.
Yeah.
That's his career over. It's like And then when I saw him signing for Brentford, I wasn't sure how it's going to go. But as you said, he really blew everyone away. Like, I remember Brentford at Old Trafford. He was the best player on the pitch. It was like February time. Um, that was the sort of period under Ranić where United were really poor, and
When
Brentford.
weren't we under Ranić? I think we played a
The
really
first game,
good
the
30
first game,
minutes in the 4-2-2 against Palace.
the
Yeah,
first game against Palace, man, I had big hopes and dreams, but
it was the first 30 minutes. It's all that lasted. The press finished after there. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, that Brentford game at Old Trafford, he was pinging it across Old Trafford, and I think it's a very good signing for United. I think a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, this is such a United signing." Just
Really, I
sign-
think it's the opposite.
no, this is a smart signing. It's a free transfer. When do we ever pick up players on the free? Not ever. We're not smart enough. But maybe this, this new era at United is good things. And I think you're saying he will play second fiddle to Bruno, but I would actually like to see him play a bit deeper.
Really, I think that's
Straight
interesting.
passes. I would honestly, I would have him in there and over someone like Fred, maybe, but
No.
they play different roles, don't they? I would like to see him in the free, but obviously we're playing 4-2-3-1.
See, for me, I think it's a bit of a strange one. I think that he comes in, he's either going to sit on the bench and Bruno's going to slot straight back in at 10, or I could see him maybe Rashford making way sometimes with Bruno and Bruno playing off the left with Eriksen in that 10 role. But for me, I don't think he can go deeper. I don't think he's really got the physicality to play that sort of role. And I was talking to Rod about it. I feel like, after the cardiac arrest, despite him being, I think, 29 or 30, it's more like it's added 3 years to his playing career, in my opinion. So I don't think he's going to have the ability to play every single game of the season as a starter. So I think he's going to be used mainly as an impact sub and in certain sort of games where United need to break down that sort of low block or even counter-attack, because he's a brilliant player in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, he sort of fills that role that Mata had coming off the bench. I think he's a really big upgrade on Mata.
I think he's a huge upgrade on Mata. I love Juan, but his legs were gone.
Yeah, and he was just so weak towards the end.
It was like watching your granddad play.
Yeah, but even when he came on, he did have some like nice touches. So, but he's such an upgrade, man. What I want to know is, where does Donny fit into all of this? Like, you thinking Donny's going to be playing deep this season?
I don't think Donny's playing, mate. I really don't.
Like, he's played under Ten Hag before in that famous.
I don't give a fuck. I think if you bring in a player like this, I think Donny can be a squad player. I think me and Rod have been talking a lot about the new rules, meaning it's 5 substitutes now in the Premier League. I think that makes a big difference, and I think depth's going to be really important, Danny. So let's not talk about Donny van der Beek, because I spoke about him so much last year. I was so proud to see him go and play for Big Frank, and he didn't really play. But let's move on to another signing at United. Done deal, Danny. Confirmed by pretty much everyone online now. Martinez, I want to say it's not Lissandro, it is Lissandro. I always get Lautaro and Lissandro mixed up, but yeah, Lissandro Martinez from Ajax. I love this signing. I think this is the sort of signing United should be doing. It's definitely not the signings we kind of done in the past. I feel like this one's a little bit more low key. He's a really talented player, and he's known throughout Europe and South America for his ability, but it's not the marquee name, and I think he's the player who's coming in. I think he's 24, 25, he's just about to hit his prime, and he looks really fucking good from what I've seen, and I'm really excited to see him come into this United side and hopefully sit in that left centre-back position and really change things up for United in defence.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know much about him, but what I do know is that he's left-footed and he can play the ball.
I know he's left-footed.
Yeah, he's left-footed. He is left-footed, right? Yeah,
He is
and
left-footed.
he's the sort of missing piece of the jigsaw, really. Like, I'm looking at United centre backs now, and it's looking pretty good. Like
Is
Varane, I think, hopefully, if he doesn't get many injuries.
Let's face it, Varane's going to be injured all season again. It's going to be Martinez and Maguire, and we're going to go, Maguire shit, let's bring in Lindelof. Oh no, Lindelof shit, let's bring in Bailly. Honestly, I think United have got to start looking at shifting either a Lindelof or Bailly. I don't think they're going to shift Maguire, even though I'd love to see him go. And I was watching United yesterday. I didn't really get to see too much of the Liverpool game. I got to catch half of the United game against Melbourne, and what showed is we are going to be playing a higher line. We need more athletic players at centre back. I think Varane and Martinez would be a perfect combination. It's just, like I said, I don't think Varane is going to be fit for the entire season. And where we got caught out was the high line and Harry Maguire and Lindelof just being slow as fuck. But what I can tell you about Martinez, Danny, is he's very tenacious sort of defender. He's not that tall, but he's got great aerial success. I think if you compare it to, I think Maguire, it's actually a lot better. And despite not being the biggest centre back, he's got a lot of aggression to back it up, and I'm really excited. I think you look at former United Argentinians, you got Marcos Rojo, who I actually liked. Heinze, who was, just when I started out watching United, really, like that 05, 06. I fucking Di Maria. So we haven't got the greatest track record with Argentinians, but I'm hoping this is going to change things, Danny.
Yeah, and I think we do need that sort of South American, that flavour of aggression, and they're just built different down there. And he can be the player we thought Rojo was going to be. I liked Rojo as well, but he was a big liability. And he's a left-footed again. Could you see this guy playing maybe?
No.
No, what?
You're going to say midfield, and I'm going to say no, because I don't want to see him play in midfield. I want him to see him playing as a fucking centre back, hopefully, because United need a centre back who, can really, lead this team, and I think he's one of them. I actually showed great leadership and, influence throughout the team. I'm hoping. Sorry, as my voice goes, I'm hoping he can have that sort of effect on this United backline. I think we do actually have some solid defensive players if you was to look at the players we have. But I think they're a bit all over the place, and I think that's probably down to a bit of Harry Maguire, not to put all the blame on him, but I don't think he's a great leader, and I don't think he's a great communicator across the backline, and I'm hoping Martinez can hopefully be that for us.
Yes, definitely. And it is interesting. We do have a lack of leaders, and obviously Maguire has been kept as captain.
Yeah,
but I think it would cause more problems than it solves if we stripped him of it.
I disagree.
It's just more negativity and stuff. We don't need it right now. Like, I just don't think the captain's that big of a role. You can have leaders throughout the team.
I think it is a big role, but we'll beg the
sorting out the fines and stuff. That's all it is these days.
Oh, Danny, fuck off, mate. We're gonna have to move on from United. Let's go to the other half of Manchester. Let's talk about the noisy neighbours who are fucking dominant as fuck at the moment. How many times can I say fuck? But let's talk about City. Me and Rod have been discussing Cucurella quite a lot. It looks like City are really interested and they want to get this deal done. But they do have quite a few left backs. You look at Yao Cancelo playing there quite a lot. Zinchenko coming in as well. We won't talk about Mendy. Yeah, and for them to really make this deal happen, it looks like someone's got to go. Mendy's already gone. So Zinchenko looks to be on the way out. And I actually love this deal. Arsenal talking about getting him in. I think he'd be a great signing for them. When I've watched Ukraine play and City, I'm really impressed by him. I think he's really versatile. I don't think he's the sort of winger who's going to maybe offer you a winger, sorry, fullback who's going to offer you all too much as a fullback, but I actually think he could do a lot in midfield for Arsenal. I'd be interested to see him maybe come into that double pivot which Arsenal play. I think he could be a really good asset for them.
Yeah, I think it is Zivchenko that will be going and Cucurella coming in, and it's just great business from City, but great business from Arsenal. Like Arsenal are just, I hate to say it, but it looks like they're doing well for signings, in my opinion. I think Gabriel Jesus is, what a great signing that is, and Zivchenko again. What's that for?
I don't. Well, me and Rod have discussed it. Rod likes the Jesus signing. Me, I don't think he's the sort of striker Arsenal need. I think if they could go back in the past and go and get Batistuta, I think that would be the perfect signing for them up front. But they can't do that because they don't have a time machine. So they're stuck with Jesus. I just don't think he's got the physical sort of attributes for a lone striker for Arsenal. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I do agree. I think a lot of people beg to differ. And I think if you look at the business they've done, they brought in a lot of young talent, and I think Zinchenko, only 25 or 26, he's not in his prime yet, and I think he's been brilliant. I think he's got those leadership attributes, which I think at City kind of go unknown at times because of the sort of team they have. But I think if you watch him for the Ukraine, I think he's brilliant for them. And the other thing I was going to say is a lot of people will forget about that final game of the season against Villa and what really changed things. It wasn't De Bruyne, it was Zinchenko who changed that match. And, they can basically... I think he'll be missed by City, in all honesty. I think it's great signing for Arsenal, and I think it's probably good business for both sides. I think Cucurella coming in, he's super young, and me and Rod talking about him, I really like the ability that he has. He can play as a left-handed, left-sided centre-back in a free. He can play that left-back, left wing-back role. He can even play left wing. I think he's a quality signing.
Yeah, and it's that sort of Pep Guardiola pre-made player where he just kind of slot right into
Spanish.
Not just because he's Spanish, just the way he plays. Probably one of the best left backs in the league last season. It's just gutting for me personally, looking at these other sides doing good business and then looking at United.
I'm not too bothered about United, in all honesty. I think if we can get a midfielder in, we'll be all right, and a striker and another centre back, and the
thing is,
and some really interesting creative playmakers, maybe some Brazilians
and a right back
from PSG. But yeah. So overall, I think good business for both sides, and I think that those are really good assets. I think Cucurella definitely for the long term. I think you can move Cancelo back to right back, especially with Walker. I think he's probably coming towards the end. I think he has put in some good shifts for him, but I do see him starting to make a few more mistakes the past season than he did before. We'll move on though, Danny. I was really expecting a lot of teams, as soon as you saw Watford, Norwich and Burnley go down, to kind of scoop up their talent. It hasn't really happened as of yet, but it's finally starting to happen. I do think all three sides, despite being shocking last season, do have some talented players within their roster. I sound like an NFL fan. Yeah, Burnley, we've just seen Collins, who is 21, centre-back. I thought he was solid for him last season. He's moved to Wolves in a deal worth around 20 million. I think that's a solid signing for Wolves. I think he fits in with their defence really well. You can probably look at them playing an all-English centre-half partnership next season with Collins, Cody and Kilman, which I think would actually be a really good sort of backline for them. I think they've got everything you kind of need, that physicality and the head strength, the mental ability. But now, one of Burnley's most exciting players, Danny, seems to be on his way to Everton. There's a release clause in Cornet, Maxwell Cornet's contract. I think it's around 20-ish million. I think this is a great sign for Everton. I think with Richarlison leaving to Spurs, that left-hand side definitely could do with a bit of an upgrade. And the whole squad in some sort of a way, but I think he adds a load of quality, especially down that left-hand side. He's not really that sort of traditional winger who's, come back, well, the modern-day winger, an inverted sort of forward. He's definitely more of a winger, in my opinion. He can get goals, as he showed for Burnley, who were a shocking side last season. Well, what's your thoughts? Lampard, he's looking to get Gibbs-White in, and now Cornet.
Yeah, I think it's a very decent signing for Everton. It's the sort of signing I would expect them to make with their sort of situation where they can't really sign anyone really big, but maybe hopefully with this Richarlison money. But for me, like, he did get very good numbers for, as you said, a shocking Burnley side, and it must have been in his contract or something. If they went down, he was allowed to leave, and if he doesn't
it's this release clause, isn't it?
yeah, if it's not Everton, he'll be definitely leaving for someone else.
Well, yeah, it is because, well, it's certain that he's leaving because Vincent Kompany, Burnley manager, came out and said we have to move on without him now in a press conference. So
that's just so weird. But, yeah.
All right. But yeah, any other thoughts on Cornet to Everton?
Good signing for Everton. I think he would have fit anyone in that sort of mid-table sort of those sort of teams.
I think Leicester would have been a good move for him.
Yes,
that would have been a saucy move, I think.
Lampard, I hope he does well because I do actually like. He's like a really bad manager from what I've seen so far at Chelsea and Everton. But
wait, who goes first, Tuchel or Frank?
CBG goes first out of all of them.
Nah, mate, I disagree. Right, let's move on to another signing, Danny. One I really like. I was expecting him to make a move to the Premier League sooner or later. I remember seeing this guy play first for Charlton in the League One playoffs, I think it was. Joe Aribo has moved from Rangers to Southampton. Done deal. Love this signing. I think he's that sort of dynamic midfielder that Southampton really lack. I think you've got Ward-Prowse. He's a bit more of an orchestrator, and obviously the set pieces. And I think all round, super underrated player, especially defensively. He's quite tenacious in that midfield. I'm a big fan of James Ward-Prowse. You've got Romu in there, who's a bit more. I don't know how to describe him. He's like your B-Tech Rodri. But yeah, I think Aribo's that sort of midfielder they've been lacking. Bags of quality on the ball. He can go missing in games, but I think he's going to show up this season for Southampton, especially on the ball. I think he gives them that ability to, break out of some certain situations with his ability to drive forward with the ball. His, his creative passes. I guess you could say he could be the B-Tech Rodri mate, the B-Tech Yaya Toure.
The B-Tech Yaya Toure. I mean, as you say, he's tenacious, and just like, I'm not going to claim I've seen lots of him, but watching Rangers in the Europa League, he was honestly the standout player for me.
Yeah.
And did a job up front in the final, didn't he? Did he score? He scored in the final, I'm pretty sure. And it's a very Southampton signing, a smart signing.
I'm surprised no one else didn't go in for him.
Yeah, but I guess it's that sort of. I don't know. I think it is always a risk buying from the Scottish League because you just don't know. You don't see many transfers from the Scottish League to the Premier League. I can't think of many other than Van Dijk, again to Southampton.
Naismith.
But what I would say, he's a big game player from what I've seen because it got really tough for Rangers in that final, especially. There's a lot of pressure, and he didn't hide, and that's what you want in a Premier League player, isn't it?
Well, I think football's changed, especially with the way Klopp's played and how he's made the game so much more about, that athleticism and physicality, the ability to run for all 90 minutes. And I think Joe Aribo's more than that. I think he's a player who comes into the side, bags of athleticism. He's very capable of running with the ball, like I said earlier. But I think he's got a bit more quality about him. I don't think he's like a player you'd want in your FPL team, but I think he's gonna be a big player for Southampton. I actually think I could see them maybe move into a three-man midfield, or, you know, a Rebo playing off the striker at times. You know, I think they could probably do with bringing in a new striker. I don't think either Che Adams or Armstrong are really good enough to play as a lone striker. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. But I think you could play, like I said, in a three-man midfield, or play off the striker in a more like traditional number 10 role. I like this guy, man. I think he's going to do big things. I think like this is the sort of player you'll have Danny Murphy highlighting on Match of the Day.
Can't wait for that. Come on.
Yeah. All right. So the last transfer we're going to talk about, because we've been going for a while, Broja. Obviously, me and Rod kind of discussed it. Rod doesn't rate him, but I rate him because his numbers don't show that he's good. But for me, I felt he was one of the shining lights in the Southampton side, who were pretty poor last year. It looks like he could be on his way to West Ham. I think West Ham had a bid rejected for around 35 million. But I don't think it's going to take too much more for West Ham to get this deal over the line. I think if it happens, it's the sort of striker which could definitely make an impact in that squad. I think West Ham have done a great job of using young players as of late, bringing in our local boy, Jared Bowen from the Championship. Obviously, he's been, you know, on fire last season for him. I think you look at the way they bedded in Declan Rice. Antonio's a striker who is very physical, and I think puts a lot of toll on his body by the way he plays, and he can't always stay fit. He struggled with injuries in the past. I think having Broja there could make a big difference, because I think he's not just a poacher. I think he's got that physicality to him as well, and that quality on the ball. I think he's like a jack of all trades up front, and I think he could really make a big impact for West Ham if they could get the deal over the line.
Yeah, and for me, again, good signing. I agree. Like, his numbers weren't great last season, but there's a reason 35 million bids are going in. That's a lot of money. It's almost too much money for him, in my opinion, but that's how crazy the market is. But just from what West Ham needs, in my opinion, they're very light up front, aren't they? Especially if Antonio gets injured.
I think like last season they did okay. In terms of, you know, they did miss a striker at certain points of the season, but other players were able to fill in that role. I think Bowen did a great job whenever he was needed to play up there. You know, I don't necessarily think he's a striker. I definitely think he's better off the wing, but he does give you that sort of ability to, you know, the way he's able to put in a shift all 90, and he always gives it 100%. I think he's always going to do a job for you up there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm saying that they just need him for cover, you know? I think they're not desperate for cover, but he definitely, like, they need someone else up there, in my opinion, because you can't rely on Bowen to do, and practically he was pretty insane last season, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was, and I
definitely... like Wayne Rooney. Do you get that?
What?
From Bowen, a little bit, you know?
What, Wayne Rooney vibes?
Yeah, young Wayne Rooney.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what's even more insane. I saw on Twitter one of the like clips of Ben Foster's podcast came up. And, they were talking about Craig Dawson, and Craig Dawson said that Jared Bowen is like Messi.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
I'm not sure about that. I'm just sort of...
I know what you mean by Wayne Rooney vibes, though. He's tenacious.
And his speed, and... he's definitely like one of Hereford's best exports, and, you know, friend of the show, I guess, if you count Rod as his friend.
Rod loves Jared Bowen, doesn't he, mate? He's
I'll have him on next time.
Yeah, but I guess that's the end of the video. I'd just like to thank you if you have made it this far. I doubt you have, but if you have, be sure to leave a like on the video. It's greatly appreciated by us. I'll be back next week. I think Rod might be back. Maybe we'll get Danny on again if he's a good boy. But as always, guys, leave a like, comment down below, letting us know which transfer you're excited to see happen. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Peace out.